Hello and welcome to the Upbeat Interview, where we explore people's passions, their creative process, and see what inspires them. If you enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. Our guest today is Deb Mezaros from the YouTube channel Craftpocalypse, which she started in March 2020 during the pandemic in order to stay crafty while she was staying at home. Deb is a shoe designer, a ceramics artist, a seamstress, a home baker, a gardener, and a former stand-up comic. And she's also been a very good friend of mine for many years. Welcome, Deb.
Hello.
So I want to start off asking you about something that you wrote in the description of your YouTube channel. You said, craft is magic.
I think anytime something actually works out, it is magic because I have no clue what I'm doing. So if a cake comes out or if the leggings come out, I am very impressed.
I actually have a little slideshow of your videos. This was the first one.
Oh, yes. Poor quality, my husband told me. The lighting was very poor quality. I didn't have the lights on around me. I find it's a little stressful. I have too many edits, you know. Mike says I need to go in there and know exactly what I'm going to say, so I only have one thing to film, and meanwhile I have like 30 usually, and I piece it together. And then I go back after I make the thing and I'm like, I have to start the beginning again. I do it in a bad way. It stresses me out.
The next one,
I made that sweatshirt. You know what? I made that from Cal's book, How to Copy Your Clothing. And yes, the amazing Cal patch that we took a class from together. Yes, my tomato seedlings are not doing so well, by the way.
Oh, I was going to ask about.
They'll be okay, hopefully, but I have them under a grow light, and I might have burnt them out or something. I'm not really sure. I've always had success in the past, but I don't really know what I'm doing, and they seem to be a little shriveled up, but maybe by the time I put them outside, I could, bring them back to life. I don't know.
Well, you had success with this.
I did have success. I've made that cake many times, though. I love that cake. That's that cake. It used to be, it's an Entenmann's cake, and I have that. My father and his mom used to get that cake. That was our cake. And they moved to Las Vegas, and I used to have to send them that cake because they did not make that here anymore. They didn't make Entenmann's there. They couldn't get it. So then I brought that home when I was living with my parents after college, my mom and my stepdad, and I brought that cake there. And of course, at first, my stepfather, very fancy, poo-pooed Entenmann's. And then suddenly, he now calls that his cake. Everybody loves that cake.
And then a couple funny bits that I like.
Oh, thank you. I try to make them funny most of all. I don't remember my history with it. I don't remember. I'm sure if I asked my mom, she would say I made things. I always wanted my mom to show me things, be one of those moms that wore matching outfits and baked cookies for me and made things, but she wasn't that kind of mom, which I so appreciate now. She's awesome, but I had always wanted the June Cleaver mother, and I did not have that. I feel like I had to teach myself a lot of things, and I would be a lot better if I really had been, I don't know, given more direction as a child, maybe. Now I just realized the only thing I think I used to make jewelry when I was younger, in high school and younger than that. That's the thing. I used to have a lot of beads. I remember going into the city when I was in 8th grade to all the bead stores and buying a lot of beads. So I guess I was crafty in that kind of way. What was my dream job? Nothing. I had no dream job until I got older, and it was just, I wanted to be a comedian. Just always loved, in high school watching comedians. And I think when I was on breaks from college, I used to drive into the city by myself and go to comedy clubs and watch comedians. There was this show on Monday night at the Luna Lounge on Ludlow Street with Mark Maron was the host. And I loved it. And I used to go there, and I never in a million years thought I could do anything like that. And I mean, just like sewing leggings or something, like you just try it and you're like, oh, I could do this. And I gave that up for some stupid reason, and now I'm too old to go back because it's, you know, I know my brain is there, but you know, at 25, I should have just kept with that. Well, I mean, just of making these videos, I find I do need to be prepared. Like I just made a leggings video, and I had a lot of voiceover to do because I was making the pattern and sewing. And obviously if I did that in real time, you would be watching this video for like 45 minutes. So I was speeding up parts and skipping over parts. So I had to do all of that as a voiceover. And every time I tried to do the voiceover, it was not coming out right until I would write it down and just be prepared for what I was going to say, even though I knew what I was going to say. And I found that comedy was the same way. I mean, you had to be prepared. As long as you were prepared, it would usually go well. The first time I ever did comedy, I had gone to see, I don't even remember who it was, but I went with my friend to see somebody we knew do some comedy, and the show was too crowded. We got there too late, so they wouldn't let us in. So we were kind of hanging out in the front at the bar, and there was a guy, I guess, there who booked the shows. So I was like 25, and I just asked him, I was like, oh, how do you get to be, doing this? And he was like, oh, I could, sign you up for 2 weeks from tonight. So I was like, okay. And he thought I was a comedian already, which I did not realize, because 2 weeks later I got to the place and there was a girl there, and she was like, well, how did your audition go? And I was like, audition? I didn't have an audition. And of course it was like a, horrible sinking feeling that I was like, I probably suck. But I was living with my parents at that time, and they were away for the summer. They drove cross country with my brother and his girlfriend. And I was home with another brother of mine who was very funny. And I had all these things. I had always kept a notebook of like little things I thought were funny or crazy or something. And I would tell it to him, and he would kind of refine it in a way. Like he was like, you got to stop talking about Jeopardy. Nobody wants to hear that much about Jeopardy. He was like, three things. So, he was very good. He was my audience for those 2 weeks. And, it went great because I really practiced. I think that was the key. I think we could have been a great brother-sister act if he had wanted to, do something like that with me. I don't know. At 25, I don't know. I was fearless then. Actually, also I had just broken up with a boy and I was very down in the dumps, and I felt like, what else could go wrong? Nothing else could go wrong. Like I was already at such a low point, and it was such a high when I finally did go up there, and getting a laugh, getting all these laughs. One of my first time up there was one of the best times ever for some reason. And I think just because I had nothing to lose, it was like, whatever. It was such a rush, but it was also very stressful. And people, I'm just not a drinker really, but maybe that would have helped me because people would always have a drink before or something. I needed to be there. I needed to be fully there and aware the whole time, but I would always feel a sigh of relief when it was over, even, but I was very excited for it at the same time. I love this guy, Al Lubell. I can't believe that more of the world doesn't know about this guy. He is so good. And I remember, I'm probably not going to do it justice. One of the funniest things, I remember these things from when from like 30 years ago. He had this joke that, he had this fear of flying, and his friend was a pilot and offered to take him up in a plane. And he realized that now his chances of dying from a heart attack have now doubled. He was a lawyer. He went to law school, and he said he always wanted to try one more case, like a murder case, and wanted to turn to the clients like right at the moment, the jury's gonna read the verdict, and he's gonna say, "I'm a comedian." I loved Ellen DeGeneres. I remember she had a special, this also is probably like 30 years ago at least, maybe more, but talking about people who have the animal heads on their walls. And she was like, they say, I don't remember it at all, but it was something like because they love him, they love the animals. And she was like, I love my mother, I'm not going to put her head up there. Love Brian Regan, who I actually saw last year in Atlantic City. He's great. He is so good. I remember one of his things also was he was doing like a thing on speaking to like a person when you're doing an airline reservation and you're giving the letters, and he was like, K is in Gaddafi, Q is in Gaddafi. My first degree was in was fine art, but my focus was in photography. And I did that for a little while, like doing jobs with photography, and that it took the love out of it for me. So I don't know, but when I went to FIT, I was older, and I was around, everybody was like 12 years younger than me, like these kids. And I guess I felt very inspired. I liked it. I loved, like, suddenly I was just doing artsy stuff all the time. And I felt like I hadn't really done that since college. And I loved that environment. I loved the teachers. I loved the kids. And yeah, I don't know. That was good. That was, yeah.
And did you find the skills you learned there applied to your real world job?
No. No, I remember when they made you take an illustrator class there, and the teacher was only interested in showing us pictures of like Asian women on top of sports cars and wanted us to do things with Illustrator. And then when I started working at Payless doing the shoe design, I remember talking to my teachers at FIT, like the head of the department, and telling them that this is not, like, what we're learning in Illustrator does not translate to the fashion world, and that somebody else should be teaching the Illustrator classes, or they should be teaching it in a different way. And yeah, but certain things, it was more arty at school. Like when you get down to it at the job, it was less like, you didn't really have to draw it by hand. You did everything on computer. So like if it wasn't a straight line, you could kind of smooth it out with the stroke of the mouse. I mean, maybe deadlines and stuff like that, but I don't think that the stuff I learned so much there, like in the shoe design classes and in the handbag classes, I learned how to make the things. Like I could go work in a factory in China, but they don't really teach you how to be a shoe designer. You kind of learn that maybe that's why they make you take the internship, because you do get hands-on experience and learn that stuff. And I think every place is different also. So. Well, he is, and he has been very helpful in this. He actually writes all the descriptions. He also is the one who told me I didn't have good lighting in that first video. Yeah, I don't want him there when I'm doing it. I'm nervous. I don't want him. I always tell him to go in the bedroom and close the door. But when he is there, if I've said anything and he's sitting on the couch, it makes it funnier because he helps me. He'll say, you should say it this way, or, you know. Well, right now I'm very into pottery. Years ago, maybe in the early 2000s, there was a show on the DIY network called Throwing Clay, and Bill Van Gilder was the potter. And I still belong to his newsletter, and he just sent something yesterday, and I didn't look at it until late last night, and he put 18 of the 31 episodes of that Throwing Pottery on his website, to a link to like a YouTube channel. And so of course I started watching them all, and they were awesome. And through him, maybe last fall, I was looking up a video of his, and over on the side of YouTube, it like gives you other suggestions. And I saw this, I don't know, it was a suggestion about how to find your, a chamois that you would smooth the edges with. So I clicked on that, and that was this woman, Jessica Putnam Phillips, who I became obsessed with. She is like the most amazing thing. She has a whole world, and she has figured out how to make a living being already, she does pottery. She has a studio at home. People pay to watch her, like to have, she has all these classes online. She has like figured it out, but she also offers free things. So, you know, anyway, but she's amazing. And right now I'm obsessed with watching both of those things. But here I have these little rings or something.
Yeah.
I have a little lamb. Whoop.
Cool.
Actually, I drew them in Illustrator, and then I found, I have this silhouette machine that I bought a few years ago that I had completely forgotten about, but when I was making those mini envelopes, I was cutting them by hand, and it was killing my hand. And then I was like, can I just go online and buy something that'll make these envelopes for me, and they'll send me them if I send them the pattern? And then when I typed like a die cutter in, that machine that I have came up, and I was like, I think I have that, of course. And then I started looking for it, and then I was like, oh. So I brought those animal shapes I made in Illustrator into that silhouette software, and I printed it out on paper. Then I cut that paper out onto foam, and then I put the foam on the clay, because the paper on the clay will just, you won't be able to really use it again. Here, I like this one, the little bunny. I made a little chick, Hamsa, hands of God, a little cat, just made some ears. I tried to make my little kitty, I tried to make a tortoise shell, but I realized I have to do the brown and like more layers. It wasn't coming out evenly. Oh, calico, don't listen to me. See, I don't know what I'm talking about. I have a low fire kiln. I bought it on eBay, maybe 2005-ish. And it's small on the inside. So like when I first got it, I was making jewelry. These little hearts. This again, I made a little Hamsa, little hands of God one. And so I could fit a lot in that kiln. And now when I'm making bigger things, it's hard. You can't really put a lot in the kiln. Like I made some mugs, and I could only put 3 in there. Well, I really want to get this. I went back and forth last year of almost getting a pottery wheel. There is a tabletop pottery wheel that's kind of affordable as pottery wheels go, but I was worried about the mess. But so I was like, there's a tabletop one, you could just bring it outside, and I have a terrace, so I was like, I could do it outside when it's warm, but it really does make a mess. So I decided I would not do that, and instead I had gotten a slab roller, so it rolls a slab like evenly, and that's how I make all these dishes, and that they're all like, I know you could just roll it out with rolling pin, but I always have trouble with that. I can't roll it even for some reason. And even with like thickness strips that are a 1/4 inch, I don't know. So I gotta say this was one of the best purchases ever, the slab. But there's that I got through my lady, Jessica Putnam Phillips. She has shown this mini maker. It's a little teeny pottery wheel this husband and wife make. They're in Michigan, and you could make little teeny bowls, like, and it's like a very strong motor and everything, but Mike keeps telling me I should not be spending money.
Okay, so Deb from Craftpocalypse, thanks for, and I will get your links and put them in the description and the video itself.
Yeah, Alu Bell, Bill Van Gelder, Jessica Putnam Phillips.
And Craftpocalypse.
And Craftpocalypse.
Yeah.